Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. My name is Toby Younis. As you can see, I'm without a partner today. She's at a business conference and networking session today, so she missed being here today. She'll miss being here on her show at 4 o'clock and on A Gypsy's Kiss tonight at 7 o'clock. But today we have a great sample of great white northern fracking sand. And I got it off eBay from a couple whose name I think is Ron and Kelly Wow. But I have a kind of interesting thing to read from the eBay listing. Don't forget, today is giveaway day. We're going to be giving away this print of the Under the Microscope from that green sand beach in Hawaii. So make sure if you want to qualify for this giveaway, you have to make a comment on last Friday's World Sand Project video. So you have a few minutes before we do that, okay? So remember, just last Friday's World Sand Project video. Okay, so let me say that again. We have a giveaway today. It's a 4x6 dye sublimation print shot by yours truly under the stereo microscope of the sand, the green sand beach sand that we covered in last Friday's video. So I don't know, did we cover it last Friday? Anyway, in order to qualify for this prize, I think what I'll do is I'll give it away towards the end of the show, and that way for all the folks that that want to be in the competition, they can do that. So all you have to do is go to last Friday's World Sand Video Project and make a comment, and we'll select someone randomly from there. Okay? And today, our giveaway, you know what, I'll do this later so that we don't confuse it. So hi to you all in the room. Thanks for joining me today. As you can see, and as I said in my introduction, Shelley's not with me today. She's at a conference today with other entrepreneurs that lasts all the way through this evening with a dinner and a networking session, et cetera, et cetera. So she won't be joining us today on any of the show. Well, she's not doing the softer side and won't be joining me on A Gypsy's Kiss this evening. So she will be missed, of course, because she always brings a certain amount of fun and light to our shows. But let's go on to this project today. This is a sample, World Sand Project sample number 13. I got it off eBay because I didn't know how else. And eBay, for those of you guys that don't know it, there is a thing on eBay where you can buy sand samples from all over the world. This one was collected and sold by Ron, and I'm going to assume his name is Ron Wow, W-A-O, and he put this on eBay, but he also, and there's an eBay, for those of you that are familiar with eBay, there's an eBay description box, and I want to read some of what he said in this description box. Let me see. You are buying one 2-inch by 3-inch Ziploc bag containing approximately 15 milliliters of great white northern fracking sand sample collected from Marshfield, Wisconsin for my wife Kelly and me by a sand collector friend. The sand comes, so when I printed this out, it's kind of cut off the sand, so I may... The sand comes from only 3 places, Illinois, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. This particular sand came from Wisconsin. Some farmers use fracking sand as bedding for their cattle when they give birth because it is so clean, soft, and quite light in color. The term fracking sand refers to a similar small material that serves as propants or proppants that are blasted under pressure into a shale gas well along with large quantities of water and industrial fluids to stimulate gas production. Propants are used to prop open the underground cracks from which natural gas is harvested during hydraulic fracking. Fracking is a euphemism, I guess, for hydraulic fracking, which is a form, which is a process of extracting. It started it out as natural gas, but has moved into oil from the underground shale by cracking it open and forcing it out. Let's see. Industry publications estimate that each shale gas well requires approximately 5 million pounds of sand or other proppant for a hydraulic fracturing process. Then he adds, currently Kelly teaches fifth grade and has a special, quote, sand unit, unquote, for her kids where she shows sand samples mounted on slides under a microscope from over 400 locations around the world. She has been collecting sand samples from all over the world for the past 18 years. So I'm going to try and get in touch with her and see if there's some sand samples that we can get from her as well. So anyway, that's from Ron and Kelly. And Ron and Kelly, thank you very much for your sand sample. It's beautiful, as we're about to see. We'll see some areas. I didn't want to make this a show about fracking, although I did want to talk about it because this sand process is important to it. So what I did instead is, let me go back to our screen. In the description box below this video, let me show the window. So in the description box below this video, I've put several references. So there's a link to the Wisconsin fracking sand fact sheet. And then I put a link to our photos, of course, which we're going to be showing in just a minute anyway. There's a link to the map that we're going to be seeing in just a little bit. And I also created a playlist on fracking and fracking sand. And that link is right here, the fracking playlist, bit.ly fracking playlist. Okay, so if you need more information or if you'd like to see more information on fracking, it's controversial for the people that whose property is being used to collect fracking sand. It's very profitable for people in states where a lot of fracking is going on and their property is leased to the fracking industry, to the gas and oil production industry. It's very profitable for them as well. So there's a lot of money being made by individual property owners on which either sand is being mined or that fracking is being performed. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But again, if you want to learn more about it, make sure you go to the fracking playlist that I've put in the description box below. Okay, let me go back to, I want to show some maps and some images that I've already collected. And we'll go to the window shot. And so this is the area in Wisconsin that we're talking about. The area is a town called Marshfield, and as you can see, it's right here in Wisconsin. So my sense is this area right here, based on previous studies that I've done, was what was referred to as the Great Western Inland Sea, which happened in, it was an ocean that covered that part that basically separated the United States into an area called Appalachia, and this was named after Lamont. It's a place in Wyoming. But you can see where this it happened 150 million years ago, or however, I'll get it right. But you can see where this Great Western Inland Sea occurred. It came all the way through New Mexico and Texas, and it connected basically the Pacific way up here, or the Arctic Sea way up here into the Atlantic. And that's how New Mexico and other states, like Wyoming, end up with waterborne fossils. It's from that Great Western Inland Sea. But as you can see, that eastern edge of that sea intrudes into Wisconsin. And so I'm guessing a lot of this comes from the sandstone that was created by that Great Western Inland Sea at that time. If I'm incorrect, please correct me. This is an image that was included in that fact sheet that I was talking about, and it shows the area in Wisconsin where this type of sand, this very fine-grained sand, is available to be mined. And the area that we're talking about is in Wood and I think it's, let me zoom in just a little bit. Nope, I can't zoom in anymore. So it's Wood counties, and you can see it's almost the center of the state, and you can see almost that line that was made by the Great Western Inland Sea when it was created. So that's kind of why I'm guessing at this. I'm sure one of my geology friends could tell me more about it. So this was a closer look up on the map, and I noticed at first I noticed two very distinct areas. One right here, and we're going to zoom in on those. In just a few moments, and one right here, and this looked like it was a sand mine down here, and this looked like this was a sand processing. But right up here, I noticed there was a something creek sand mining company. And so I looked for the name of that creek, and we're going to see that in just a moment because it does show another sand mine. And they're not quite what you think. Apparently the sand, this kind of sand, is very close underneath the basic soil. And so what they do is they scrape away the soil and they start mining it, and then they reclaim it after they mined it. It's not a, it has created controversy in Wisconsin, but it's also produced billions of dollars worth of wealth and income in the area. So I think as long and the Wisconsin Bureau of Mines is doing a real good job of managing the process so that people aren't dying from silicosis and things like that. But it is still controversial. So this was the sand mine that was south. So what we're looking at here, let me go back to this one. So this is what we're looking at here. And then in just a minute, we're going to look at this right there, which looks like a sand processing plant. So that's a close-up look of the sand mine. And you can see this is the property owner. That property owner probably had this acreage all right here, and may or may not have been using it for crop growth, but leased it to the sand miners in order to take the sand out of there. Now they are responsible for reclaiming the land, and reclaiming it has to they after they mine it, they have to bring it back to kind of a natural state, or the process of beginning the natural state. You can't, of course, put in a bunch of trees, but eventually this area here, once it's reclaimed, will look like this area right along here. And then the other site was what looked like a sand mining operation where the sand was trucked in there. You'll see trucks, you'll see some of the operations right here, and then literally piles of that white sand. But let's go over to the map. Let me see what else I've got here. So this is the package that I got from Ron and Kelly, and that was, they said, approximately 15 milliliters. And the first thing you notice, of course, is it doesn't look like sand. It looks like sugar or salt. It's very rounded. You're going to see in just a moment. So this was the sample that I collected. That's our little sample jar that I'll keep. And then you'll see these two. You'll see the crucible, the quartz crucible under the stereo microscope. And then you'll see the Petri dish under the polarizing microscope. This is just a close-up of the crucible, the quartz crucible. And I do want to read something. I think I printed that out. I want to read something that came from that. Let me go back here so you can get a sense of what I'm talking about. Let's see. So this is part of that fact sheet. And it says, Wisconsin has an abundant resource of sand that have been mined for more than 100 years because at one time it was used in glass production, bottle production, et cetera, et cetera. So this sand has been used long before, for various reasons, long before it was used in fracking, and was being mined the same way. Our sand is used for glass manufacture, foundry molds, even golf course traps. It has been mined for the petroleum industry for many years. Recent advances in extracting oil and gas using a process called fracking, short for hydraulic fracking, have greatly increased. But let's see, what is frac sand? Frac sand is quartz sand of a specific grain size and shape that is suspended in fluid and injected into oil and gas. It's suspended in water. It's the mixture, as I read, was 98 to 99% water and sand, and then some chemicals, and that's where a lot of the controversy is, because the chemicals are harmful. I mean, they're not friendly human chemicals. Let me see. Sand grains again. There was a statement. The type of sand used in this process must be nearly pure quartz, very well rounded, extremely hard, and uniform size. Before shipment, frac sand is washed and sorted to ensure uniformity, and then it's dried. So you can see that this kind of meets those characteristics as you look at the crucible. What I noticed about it is I was handling it. So I wish I could actually show you, make the comparison for you. But when I was handling it, as I was comparing it to the sand that we took a look at on Wednesday from Galveston, it was that, if you remember the photos, let me see. So I'm gonna go back to our albums, and I'm gonna show you the kind of the close up of the photos from Galveston, and you'll see here that the Galveston sand has a lot of angles to it. It's sharp, and it's got a lot of angles to it. You're going to see the difference here in the sand from Wisconsin, because it's literally just the opposite. So that's our sample. And then I ran the magnet through it, and honestly, I forgot to clean it completely beforehand. I didn't see any black structure in this sample today. So I think these magnetites are from the last time I used this magnet. But for the most part, the only thing that stuck was that one little grain there. And as I blew it, it blew off right after I noticed it in the photograph, because I couldn't see it with the naked eye. So these are the samples, and remember, look at how rounded these are in comparison, and how uniform they are in comparison to that Galveston sample that we just saw a couple of weeks ago. It's a little bit closer look, a little bit even closer. These two are in the stereo microscope. We're going to see that in just a moment. But you can see very uniform, very rounded, very mostly quartz. You'll see the occasional piece down here, but I guess it qualifies because it's got to be. That's what those petroleum industry drillers are looking for. And again, if you want to learn more about fracking, what I'd appreciate you do is take a look at that fracking playlist. So close-up of this is in the polarizing microscope, which we're going to take a look at. And through the polarizing microscope, like normal, we'll get to see some of the light, the different colors of light that's generated as that polarized light is refracted through the crystals, through the grains of sand. So here's what I've found out. So let me go to this map. This is Google Earth in 3D, and this is Marshfield, the city of Marshfield, from where this area is collected. So here's that sand processing area that we saw earlier, right? So they're processing that sand. The sand mine was further south, but then I noticed this. There was a place called Panther Creek Sand, and I looked it up on it. It shows it was processing. I saw this, and to me, I thought, well, maybe that's where they're collecting it from. And then I realized that looked to me more like a turf farm. And there are other turf farms. You'll see them over here in the area. You don't see the other type of farming any other time. It looks like all turf farming in this area here, right? But there was this Panther Creek sand, so I Googled Panther Creek, and what came up was a couple of locations west. Did I mark them? West of Marshfield, and they'll show up. Here they are right there. So here's the Marwood sand and gravel pit. And you can see they not only mine on this property, but they process it as well. And then a little bit further west, here's where the Panther Creek sand came up. So this is their mining and processing area that is owned by that company, the Panther Creek. Now, again, they're responsible for reclaiming this, because what they probably did, you can see that's where a property owner lives, and they lease this area from the property owner. So after they're done with it, they have to reclaim it. I guess this water here is used for washing it. Now, that isn't nearly as I'm not going to say toxic. That's not fair to them. That's not nearly as toxic. Well, I guess I don't have to. I don't have another word to use as the water that comes out of a well that's been fracked, because it does have some additional chemicals that are harmful. And again, that's part of where the controversy comes from. In addition to that, this fracking started back. Well, there has been fracking since the 1950s, but there were some developments made in the late 1990s that really made it an inexpensive process. And that's where all the money was made. And they started by fracking for natural gas because they knew there was natural gas in the shale and the natural gas could be forced out easily. It's only recently, like within the past 7 or 8 years, that they've started fracking for oil. And I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a time where I was living in the Colorado area, and there was big talk about the Colorado oil shale project, and it never got quite off the ground. And I think the reason it didn't get quite off the ground is because the drilling process and the fracking process hadn't evolved enough to make it inexpensive enough to make it worthwhile. But effectively, we are now the largest producer of petroleum products in the world, and our biggest buyer is China, believe it or not, because they are now the largest consumer of oil products in the world. So they've outpaced us. So before I go on, let me remind everybody, today we're giving away, our giveaway is this. Oops, let me pop it open and I'll come back to this. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to win this. So this is a 4x6 dye sublimation photo. It has a lot. It's going to be around a long time. Dye sublimation process in a 6 or a 4x6 mount with a larger frame. And it's a microscope photo of the green sand from Papakoleo Beach in Hawaii. And in order to win this, you need to put a comment on last Friday's video. So go do that right now. Put a comment so that you can qualify. There aren't a lot of people on it, so there's a good chance to win it. Now, in addition to that, this is one of the close-ups that you just saw. This is a under the stereo microscope photo of today's project, the great. I got to make sure I don't. The Great White Northern Fracking Sand. It's 4x6. It's identified on this side, and my signature's under this. And in order to win this, we'll give this away next Friday. And in order to win this, you have to make a comment on today's video. And I'll remind everybody at the end of the show. So let's go back to the map. And as you can see, there's the Panther Creek Sand Company under the map. If you want to get to this map, there is a link in the description box below. It's bit.ly/WSP0013 map. And the cases are the capitalization in WSP, and map has to be there. Otherwise, it doesn't find it. So it has to be exact. So just please use the link. So those are two of the sand pits. All right. So let's do this. Before I go to the microscope, all right, let me go to the microscope first, and then you guys, I think that's all the photos. So let me go to the microscopes, and while I'm doing that, you guys go take a look at I'm going to change device here. I'll go over to the stereo microscope first. Okay, while we're looking at this stuff under the microscope, what I would like you to do is go to last Friday's video and make a comment so that you qualify. Okay, let me look at the chat room to make sure I'm not missing any questions before I go over to the stereo microscope. Hey, Doug, how are you doing? Time to turn over the hourglass. Yeah, JK Pioneers in the room, and we got JK sent us a sand sample, and we're going to be doing that in the next couple of weeks. Let's see, contamination of the groundwater. The contamination of the groundwater is one of the controversies associated with fracking. They've been working at it. There's a lot of research going on in the government, including the EPA and the USDA, trying to figure out ways to avoid it completely. I don't know that it has, because I know people are still complaining. still complaining about it. So, but again, I'm trying to not make this about fracking. I'm trying to make this about the fracking sand that comes from Wisconsin. So, but I did pick some videos in that fracking sand or fracking playlist that present both sides, positive and or both sides of the controversies of fracking. So you can take a look at them. Let's see. Rick Eggleston, who is a geologist, by the way, perfectly round quartz sand increases porosity and permeability of the reservoir. And he's talking about the reservoir that's in the slate. And it's really an interesting process and to see how far it's come over the past since the late 1990s. It's really amazing. Let's see, it's part of the fracking crew out in Alberta, so Canada is doing it as well. JK says it looks like light brown sugar. Tony Russi sees sand people. Oh, hey, the softer side is in the room. Hi, Shelley. Hi, Part. I didn't see you pop in. The MTP's in the room. Taika, focus on the big picture. So JK Pioneer says, can this sand be used for construction? No, I think it is my opinion. I don't see it being used as construction because it seems to have the same problem that desert sand has. And that is desert sand is rounded, that marble-like, so it doesn't interlock. And so when it would be like, as the example that I've used before is, it would be like building a structure with a set of marbles. They don't interlock. So, and if you look at this sand up close in just a minute, you can see it's just rounded. And oh, that's what I was going to say. So I had the 2 Petri dishes, and I was everything that I did with this sand, it would splash out. I mean, it was very mobile, I don't know. It like had a mind of its own. And I took the 2 Petri dishes, the one from Wednesday's show, which was that beach sand from Galveston, and the Petri dish that contained this sand, and I just jiggled it back and forth. That doesn't look. So I was jiggling it back and forth. Anyway, I do that. It's going to look jiggling it back and forth, and this sand literally rolled around on the bottom of that Petri dish like it was ball bearings. I don't know how else to describe it. While the sand from Galveston kind of stuck together, didn't do a lot of motion, etc., etc. So let's see. Looks like a headache. Corey Jacobs, that episode 011. Let's see. Rick Eggleston says Niobrara Formation, largest horizontal oil production shale in Colorado. The one in Texas is called the Braxton, I think, Formation, and it covers a lot of the state of Texas. And there is a lot of money being made not only in natural gas production but in oil production in Texas. There's I included that video in the playlist for that. Hey, K-Pro. JK Pioneer, let's see. Corey Jacobs is in the room. Let's see. It does that to me sometimes too, K-Pro. Okay, he's talking to K-Pro. I hope it's not freezing up. Doug Carver says core is an energy factor to it as soon as they collide to release. Let's see. You know what? YouTube has been a pain in the bahonkies the last 3 weeks. I can't... largest parts. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to switch over to the microscope now. And this is the stereo microscope. And I'm going to zoom out first. It's zoomed all the way in right now. So we're going to zoom out and take a look at it in the big picture. But again, what you see is a lot of roundiness, roundiness, and a lot of consistency in size and shape. So I don't know if this sand has gone through the washing process. I noticed there are a couple of these little objects, and we're going to come in, zoom in on those. But this is the small quartz crucible that's about the size of a quarter to give you a sense of it. But it's very pure quartz. And for those of you that aren't familiar with quartz, it's actually a mineral. It's referred to as silicon dioxide. and it is one of the most common minerals. It is, I think, the most common mineral on Earth, as both oxygen and silicon are the most common atoms on the surface of the Earth, on the crust of the Earth. So let's go take a look at that little orange object. I hadn't noticed that before. Let's go and take a quick look at that, see what's going on in there. So I'm going to zoom in on that. There we go. Don't get seasick in the process here. So because I'm using the stereo microscope, I've got to do it just a little bit at a time. I'll probably take a shot of that. Make sure we get that in the... let's see. We could probably fill the frame with it. So what's interesting is the comparison between that object, which seems to have, made it into the mix, and it looks more like a aggregate. It looks more like a rock in that it has it's got a combination of minerals in it. So I can even get closer, I think. Let me try this. Of course, we're going to start losing depth of field here. So that little object made it into the mix. And again, I don't know if this is post-processing, but let me take a shot of that and put it in the... put it in our, let's see, that's Stereo 04. And then I'll upload these to the, I'll upload these later to the album. But again, you can see how different this is from the others. So let me slide over just a little bit and see what else we've got in close-up. But it's pretty rounded. It doesn't get much. Even the grains that have a little bit of so those even though they have color to them, they're quartz. They're still quartz with other minerals that cause the coloration away from white. But as you can see, as we zoom in on this, it does have it's translucent, and again, I'm dealing with a camera here that is relatively sophisticated, except for its inability to auto white balance. I don't know why they didn't include it. I hope they put that in the next version of these cameras. They're all produced in China, and they're all produced either for microscopes or telescopes. For use in microscopes and telescopes. And I have 3 ways to use the camera. I can use it like I am now in one of the applications that are provided, or I can use it in, it has a HDMI connection, and I have a monitor sitting behind it that if I want real high resolution stuff, and I can use it to keep photographs and videos, put photos and videos onto an SD card, and that's where I get the best results. Okay, so has everybody in the room gone to last Friday's comment page and made a comment? All right, so let's do our giveaway for last week. Well, I'm going to switch out of this and go to full frame, and while I'm in full frame, I'm going to go to, just give me a second because I have to get to the video manager. So just give me 1 second while I do this. This is the kind of thing that really helps having Shelley around. Okay. Okay. Stop Toby. No, I'm not going to stop Toby. Can't stop. Tony Russi. Behave yourself, Tony Russi. You know what happens to people that don't behave themselves. It's last Friday's video. So let me see where that is. That would be streamed December 27th. Okay, it's the here. I'm gonna open it up right now so you can see it, and I'll give you guys another couple of minutes to go over there. Okay, so it's this video right here. WSP sample 0011, the green sand of Papakolea Beach, Hawaii. And it was streamed on December 27th. So you got 30 seconds, okay? Yeah. All right. Okay, so here, let's go. And this is, oh, I got to open this up again just to make sure. This is what you're winning, a 4x6 dye sublimation print of that beach sand, that Papacolia beach sand, under the microscope with a description of the image and my signature and date over here. All right? All right, let's open it up here, and then we'll collect the URL right there. Copy that, and we're going to go to what's it called? I forgot the name of the thing. Something comment. Comment Picker. Commentpicker.com. And we're going to open up the YouTube tools. Use the YouTube random comment picker. We're going to put that link in there. Okay, good. So everybody's made a comment. All right, let's see how many comments we have. Unique commenters 10. Wow. So you have a 1 in 10 chance of winning this beautiful piece of original art. And oh, by the way, this is going to be this is one of one. I will not produce any more of these to give away because I'm going to make a photo from each one of the sand samples on Friday. So this is one of one. That's how unique an image will be. Okay, so let's run it. This should go quick since there's only 10 people. Let's see who wins. The winner is JK Pioneer. So JK Pioneer, who also has sent us a sand sample. So JK Pioneer, you're the winner. Make sure that you send an email to worldsandsample@gmail.com. That's worldsandsample. It's passing up over my head here. worldsandsample@gmail.com with your shipping address, and I will get this into the mail this weekend. Okay? Congratulations on the win. All right. Now, let me go. Oh, I didn't show any of that. Dadgummit. Did I show that? Did you see that? So you can see it here. I think I showed it. Tell me if I showed it or not. Okay. So there's the link to the video, and there's the winner, JK Pioneer. All right? Random picker. So it was my intent. This is why it's always helpful to have Shelley in the room when I'm here. Okay, now, next Friday, this is a 4x6 dye sublimation print, one of one, that I'll give away next Friday on our show next Friday. In order to qualify for that giveaway, you have to make a comment under this video once it's processed. As usual, comments in the chat room don't count. All right, because we can't do those. So this is a photograph of the great white northern fracking sand. Again, 4x6 dye sublimation print, identification, and my signature down here. And like I said, these are one of one. No more of these images will be given away. It is unique to you after you own it, because we're going to give away images from each Friday's show. All right? So let me go back to the window shot, and so you can see there is some of the yellow, and this is under the stereo microscope. We haven't gone over to the polarizing microscope yet. I'm going to pull it out just a little bit so you can get a sense of what this stuff looks like. We're just going to navigate around. This is that 25-cent, that quarter-sized crucible that I've shown you in the past. And you don't see much of a variety. You see a little bit of discoloration, but in this sample this small, I guess it just doesn't surprise me. But what's amazing to me is how much more rounded these grains are than the sample that we saw last Wednesday from the beach at Galveston, and pretty much any other sample that we've looked at this far. I think the only one, have we looked at any? We haven't looked at any desert sand. So next week, next Friday, I think we're going to be doing either the Great Sand Dunes National Monument or the White Sands National Monument. Now, I want you to know that I bought these on eBay, and I was assured by the eBay buyer that they neither were taken directly from the monument. They were taken at locations outside the monument and okay from which to collect sand. So, you know, little sparkling rocks. Although to me, these don't look as much like diamonds as some of the other samples, I guess, because of the roundedness. But as Rick will say, that roundedness is important in the fracking process because it allows, they don't lock up, they have separation between them, and that enables both the gas and oil that they're now pulling out of the shale to get around them and into the process. And like I said, you know, this is a controversial approach to petroleum products production, but you should at least find out about it so that you know what it is, and that's why I've created that that playlist in the description box below. Let's switch over to the polarizing microscope and see what we've got there, and that's at 10x. That's pretty high. I'm going to go back to 5x for just a sec so we can take a look at some of these objects. So the yellow coloration in the polarizing microscope comes from the fact that it uses halogen lamps to produce the polarization. And in order to get that polarized look, that where you see the rainbow-like colors in the sand grains, it requires two filters. One, and I'm going to show them to you right now, and you'll see how different it looks without the filters. So one filter is called a polarizer, and it goes right in front of the light. And then one filter is called an analyzer, and it goes right in front of the object lens. Ouch, sorry, didn't mean to shake you up like that. So they have to be in the correct location. The analyzer has to be right above the lens, and the polarizer has to be right in front of the light. And then you can make slight adjustments, and they work like if you take for those of you that are photographers, you know that we have circular polarizers that enable us to adjust to reduce the amount of reflectivity that comes from sunlight or any other light for that matter. But it's the same idea, and you can see if I adjust the polarizer, it actually changes exactly how it affects the object. And what you have to kind of do is move it around until you find the right combination of polarizer and analyzer. And all of this is in a microscope. I keep promising myself I'm going to do a video over one of these weekends where you can see the microscope that I'm using, because you know, I'm not doing it because it impresses you. I'm doing it because it impresses the hell out of me. So you can see a lot of that color coming out of the quartz as it's under the polarized light, and to me it's always really, really pretty. A lot of light that comes through. And I started using, I think I mentioned to you, I started using a glass petri dish rather than a plastic one, so the background doesn't influence you know, what I'm doing. But it's very short depth of field. If you want to see the whole thing, you kind of start at the top and you focus the lens downward so that you can see each layer. Now, this is also used in making what are called, there's a style of photography called stacking. So you can stack it by taking a picture at this level, then moving it literally about a millimeter, and you take another picture, a millimeter, and you take another picture, and then you feed those hundreds. It turns out to be, I've done it, and it takes about 100 photos to get a completely stacked image, and then you put it into a piece of software, and the software analyzes it and comes up with one image that has everything in focus. Now, I've done a couple. I've actually done about 5, and they're not quite perfect yet. And the reason is if there is any motion between if you've moved anything, the table, whatever, if you've moved it slightly between the time that you take one photo and the next, it actually throws the software out of kilter. So I just want, oh, look, there's a pretty grouping right there. Look at how bright and sharp that looks. Wow. Just amazing. So if I sound to you like I'm in love with sand grains, I guess I'm in love with sand grains. So, all right. I want to take and save a shot of this. This is too good a shot to pass up. So we're going to put that in this group. And let's see, that was the polarizing microscope. Just give me a second while I save that, otherwise I'll forget. Okay. So I've got to do one other thing here, and that is turn that on. All right. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you missed the Magical Treasure Princess as much as I do. She's wonderful to have around because she brings light and joy, princess light and joy into the room whenever she's here. I think she was in here for a while. There is not going to be a softer side today. She's at a conference, and so she's got to do that, and she will not be joining with me on the Gypsy's Kiss tonight for that conference. Make a comment in this video, and next Friday we'll give away this dye sublimation print of the Great White Northern Fracking Sand. And Ron and Kelly, thank you very much for your sample. Kelly, if you're watching with your fifth graders, I just want to say hi to your fifth graders, and I hope they're as excited about your sand samples as I am. Thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking with you guys more about getting some more of the samples. I didn't realize that you had other samples on eBay, but I'll look for them because apparently Kelly is a collector and has been collecting sand for 18 years. In addition to that, I've recently discovered the International Sand Collectors Society. I applied to become a member, and hopefully I'll be able to convince some of them to come onto the show with their own samples from all over the world and introduce them, and we can have a conversation about them, okay? All right. Anything else? Let me go through the room one last time. Make sure... Let's see. Can you do this with a box of candy nerds? They have to be transparent in order to benefit. Although you can put anything under the polarizing microscope if the surface is flat enough. If it's not flat, you can see. Let me just do it quick. The problem is if the surface isn't flat, you have to do that focus stacking bit. But I still think they look great. Okay, nothing for me. I will see you guys all at 7 o'clock. Got gold dust that you can zoom into. Brit Chaser, I do, although I'm going to have to find another way to do it. Maybe I can make pictures. I do have some gold dust that you could zoom into. It's not very exciting. It's not certainly... Well, maybe under the polarizing microscope. I haven't looked at it under the polarizing microscope, but I'll get some. I'll get some. Some kind of thing to do it. K-Pro, I do not have a guest on tonight, so I'm going to be on my own, and I think we're just going to focus on inbound phone calls. I've got a couple of emails, but nothing of any significance. Got a couple of text messages. We can answer those, but then I think I'll just open up the phone lines. All right. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me today, and we will see you next Wednesday at 3 o'clock, where we'll have a sand sample from our friend in the room, and our winner today, J.K. Pioneer. I would like to state unequivocally there is no connection between the fact that he sent us a sand sample and that he won today. We look forward to you guys sending a sand sample to us. You can send it to the description box, to the address that's listed in the description box below. And also there is a video on our channel on exactly how to collect the sand sample and send it to us. And we're we've got probably, I don't know, between 20 and 30 samples backlog right now. So we're in a very good place, and I'm hoping this connection with Ron and Kelly, as well as the connection with the International Sand Collectors Society, will produce even more samples, wide and varied, from all over the world. Okay? Thanks for joining me today, you guys. Have fun.